Look at that. Pure mud pit. Horrible. Oh my God, it's so bad. I'm at this meat plant, and first of all, they made you they made you push the tandems all the way back. Sorry, it's really dark. Made you push the tandems all the way back, and then they make you, right now, because they have so many trailers, leave and take it to the livestock lot, which they're currently using for overflow. But they make you get out on the street and go down to this livestock lot with your tandems all the way back. And the livestock lot is just a big ass mud pit, man. Ugh. Anyway, in this video, we're going to talk about a couple things, winter weather, but GeoTab, geopocalypse that hit Prime Inc. this morning. And it reminds me quite a bit about what was it called? Qualpocalypse, whatever the hell it was, a couple years ago. For those of you who've been driving for 3 or more years, you probably remember the Qualcomm outage. That was pretty epic. But I'll tell you guys about some problems that I'm curious to see how they're going to resolve as a result of GeoTab completely collapsing this morning. We'll get into it here shortly. And yard movement. So you're gonna hear that flashy light. I'll turn it off here as soon as I get across into this other yard. I'm trying to find this trailer, which is not in any of the spots that they told me it would be. So hopefully I'm just gonna guess over in this other lot. We'll see if we can find it. But the other night, I was driving, let's see, what was it, Saturday? No, Friday night. Friday night, man, I drove in so much snow all night long. And then I got to this Walmart where I did a drop off early in the morning, like 2 in the morning. And they just made no attempt. There was like 7 or 8 fresh inches. And I did a drop and hook, and it was such a, dude, it was a nightmare, man. I had a hard time getting a trailer out of the spot. It was sloped. And then I also had I couldn't slide the tandems. Just all kinds of problems. And then I thought that I was getting out of that because that snowstorm was supposed to be over with by the time I got to where I was delivering, Gas City, Indiana. And then as soon as I got up to Fort Wayne to get a washout, I get a weather alert that I'm now in severe lake effect snow. So I went out of the storm that was moving across the Midwest and went right into lake effect snow. Is this? No, that's not it. Oh man, I don't think that's it. Is that it? Let's see. What am I getting? Oh, that might be it. Is that really it? I just found my trailer. I found my trailer in the only place they didn't tell me to look. That's some funny shit right there. So anyway, it was just man, it was such a nightmare. So for any of you who drove in it, now, also that drive, the whole drive I did that night was on unplowed road, unplowed interstate for the most part. And if you're a new driver or you're about to become a professional driver, I see the tip all the time, or I see the question all the time. You know what? Do you have any tips for winter driving? I'm going to give you the number one tip. And this tip is relevant for people who just drive four-wheelers. Especially relevant for people who drive four-wheelers, but relevant for everybody. Let me turn that clicking light off so you guys don't have to hear that anymore. Relevant for everybody, you guys. Here's the number one tip for winter weather driving. Slow the fuck down. That's the best tip you could possibly get from anybody and utilize in your life when you're driving. That goes for whether you're hauling freight, whether you're driving a truck, whether you're driving a four-wheeler. Slow the fuck down. Man, I'm telling you guys, I saw so many vehicles. Make sure I get under this trailer. Oh, it looks high. It might be high. I think it's high. I don't want to go overshoot it. So, yeah, it's going to be high. So we're going to have to go crank that bitch down. So anyway, I saw so many four-wheelers and everything spinning out, like real-time spinning out, like right in front of me. But they had just passed me doing 55, 60 miles an hour. Man, I like to think that if you're passing a truck, semi-truck that's doing 40, 45 miles an hour and you can't see the lanes, you can't see the road, you don't know if you're in a lane, you probably shouldn't be doing 55 or 60. There's some indicators there, some red flags there you should probably really pay attention to. And it just blows my mind that especially you pulling Amazon trailers, oh my God, Amazon trailers all night long. Just complete disregard for the conditions that we're in. And four-wheelers, you ain't got no weight, man. You don't have any weight. You don't have a lot of tire that's meeting the road. You're just this light thing just scooting across ice and doing it 55, 60 miles an hour. Like, you're just stupid. You're just asking for it. And then a lot of these people, they end up in a ditch. Oh, I don't know what happened. I must have hit some ice there. It's like, man, I'm telling you, I don't know what the stat is. I'm just making this up, but I would say it's probably 90%. It's probably, maybe 90% is not inaccurate. The bulk of accidents on ice, single vehicle accidents on ice, are likely due to speed. Now, I'm not saying speeding. I'm saying going too fast for the conditions. So that's really my trick of it, man. I mean, as long as I'm not in like big mountains or anything, if I'm just in the Midwest, there's really not, my biggest concern is other drivers. There's really not a whole lot that I won't drive in. Again, it's other drivers. Because you just maintain, especially if I've got some weight, because we run super singles, so we have a lot of grip. We have a lot of footprint making contact with the road. And when there's a lot of weight on it, as long as your speed is correct for the environment, doesn't matter how slow that could be 20 or 25 miles an hour, 15 miles per hour in certain scenarios. You're generally just not going to go off the road, so just slow down. Just slow down. That's my number one tip for winter weather driving. All right, let's get into this GeoTab shit, because it's interesting. I'm sure a lot of you didn't find it entertaining. It's interesting, so we're going to talk about that next. Scratch that. Hold that thought. We're going to talk about GeoTab in a minute. My night went south in a hurry. So, I was doing my trailer inspection and I discovered something not ideal. Not ideal at all. Got a flat tire. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's not as flat because I pushed a bunch of air into it. The yard dog asked me to move. It was right there in spot, but the yard dog asked me to move. He asked me if I could move, and I was like, yeah, I'll pull it out. And they're letting me just kind of sit over here, waiting for a tech. It's Sunday night. It may be a while, man. It may be a few hours, to be honest with you. I'm in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere. But it was completely flat down to the rim. And then I pushed air into the trailer to pull out of that spot right there. And my compressor just couldn't keep up, you know. So, but I was able to get it out here and say, it'll make it easier for the tech anyway. And it'll give me a time to finish this video quicker than I expected. So here we go. All right, that reefer is cranking. Where is that? Where's that glare coming from? Let's see if I can get rid of that glare. That's terrible. Well, that glare is just going to be there. It's coming from the other side of the camera. That's weird. Why would it do that? That's so weird. Oh, it's coming from over there. Anyway, I got my mic on, so hopefully that reefer is not too bad for you guys. Yeah, so road assist, or not road assist, dispatch, night dispatch hits me back and says, hey, is there any way they can transload you? Like, dude, it's Saturday night or Sunday night, man. Like, it's Sunday night. Like, this is not getting, if it's transloaded, it's going to take longer. I promise it's going to take longer to be transloaded than it would for somebody to get here and change his tire. Now, I really, really hope this person who comes to change this tire is not like the last person I dealt with to change a tire. The last guy I dealt with tried to tell me that he was able to repair the tire, had a big old spike in it or something, but he was trying to tell me that if he had to get the spare tire underneath the trailer out, that I had to help him with it, do that. I was parked in mud at the time, and I'm sitting there looking at that guy like, bro, look, I ain't lazy, and I ain't above helping somebody with something, but that's your job, bro. That's not my job. Like, I don't get paid for that. I ain't crawling in the mud, and this is muddy, slushy shit. So I really hope it's not someone who's going to come over here and think that I'm going to climb under the trailer after I just took a shower and lay in the mud to help get that. Like, that's not my job. I'm sorry. Tell me if you agree with that. Don't you, like, am I just being an ass? Like, I'm sorry. It's not part of my job to crawl under Prime's trailer. And what are those things, 400 pounds or whatever they are? Wrestle that thing out. I get that it's a nightmare to deal with, but that ain't my nightmare, man. So, like, fortunately, that glass guy was able to repair the tire. He just patched it up, and I was on my way. But he's sitting there trying to tell me that if he had to take that out, that I had to help him take it out, or it wasn't getting changed. And I was just under my breath, like, fuck, I am, dude. Like, this is not going to go the way you seem to think it's going to go. And it may end with you leaving, but it will not end with me laying in the mud. So anyway, I don't know. I may be here for a few hours, which sucks because I got a 0400 appointment, and that gap time is ticking now. That gap's starting to close. So this GeoTab thing. Now, fortunately, I was asleep today for the whole time. So it didn't impact me the way it impacted a lot of drivers that I know. Now, allegedly, there's some drivers that it didn't impact at all. Let me know if that's you. I don't know a single driver that didn't get logged out of their GeoTab. So for those who don't know, GeoTab is what runs our logs. It's the app that we use to run and manage and maintain all of our ELD, all of our logs. And it's pretty new for Prime. Not new technology, but new for us. And we're probably GeoTab's biggest customer. If not the biggest, one of the top 3 biggest. I mean, we basically probably added 10,000 accounts to GeoTab's profile, you know, like that. Just snap of fingers, 10,000 new accounts. And today it completely crashed. Prime's message said some drivers were logged out. Again, every driver I know was logged out, including myself. And it's not that we were just logged out. We were desynced from our trucks, which makes me think that they had to do a hard reset on the entire system. Because if I log out of GeoTab now, and then go to log back in, it still has all my truck synced, the trailer I'm attached to, all that stuff is still synchronized. So I can log out and log back in, and I don't have to go through all that. But when we logged back in today, when it was back up and running, it wanted me to select truck number, VIN number, confirm trailer number, the trip that I was on. So it needed to resynchronize my account and my logs with this truck, which, you know, again, I would think probably means there was just a full-on system-wide reset and they couldn't repair whatever happened. So it brings up some scenarios that I'm curious about because I know of two different scenarios that are extremely problematic about this. One is Cody. I don't know if you're watching, you can leave a comment down below if I missed something. But Cody's flatbed, and he was in the midst of a 34-hour reset, and he was kind of in one of those hiding in the cut hidey spots, and was told he had to move halfway or whatever through his 34-hour reset. Well, as he's moving, he gets logged out of GeoTab. Now he's moving on PC, which is perfectly legal. He's not dispatched. He's on a 34-hour reset, making a small movement to move from his spot to safe haven, somewhere to park. Perfectly legal to be on PC and do that. Problem is, he got logged out while he was using that movement exemption, which is personal conveyance. When that happened, it kicked him to Driveline. So Driveline, because of the changes a few years ago, cannot be edited. Not by you, not by the carrier, not by anybody. Driveline cannot be edited. Once Driveline hits the logs, it's there. You cannot change that. So that broke his 34-hour reset. And there's nothing he can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do to fix that. The only thing that I could think that maybe Prime might try to do is try to assign that time somewhere else. I don't know. But as it stands now, there's no way to fix that. The 34-hour reset was broken through no fault of the driver because of new technology. He had his whole thing thrown upside down. The second instance I know of, someone was also using a movement exemption, except they were using yard movement instead of personal conveyance. Yard movement is also a movement exemption. So yard movement, for those who don't know, allows you to be moving on a private property, like I did just not too long ago here at this shipper, on duty instead of Driveline. And there's really big benefits to that. First of all, you're not using your actual drive clock for that yard movement time. And second of all, that yard movement time counts towards your 30-minute break. So in other words, if you drove 7 hours, you would still have 4 hours to drive, but you would have to take a 30-minute break to be able to drive the last 3. Because you have to have a half-hour break every, within at 8 hours or before 8 hours in order to get the rest of your drive time. So if you're moving and you think that on-duty time, like let's say you're at 27 minutes of your 30-minute break, and you're going to be on yard movement for the next 5 minutes to get to the guard shack to check out and then leave, that's a completely reasonable thing to expect, that you'll cross the 30 minutes and thus you'll get the rest of your time. While this particular driver was on that exemption, the movement exemption, yard movement, and got logged out of GeoTab when this was all happening this morning, and it kicked him to Driveline. Now, he didn't know that. So what happened was he then moved to paper logs, picking up where he left off, assuming that he crossed the 30 minutes and had the rest of his time. But in reality, when he got logged back in and everything was resolved, it turns out it looks like he's in violation because he didn't actually complete the 30-minute break, because the log out kicked him to Driveline, but he didn't know. And they can't remove or edit that Driveline. All they can do is notate, put a note on that Driveline piece that here's what happened, and hope to God that the DOT officer would understand it or would take that into consideration. They don't have to. They should and could, but who knows? But the point is, this new technology, just as all the other new technology in this truck, man, driving down here. So I told you guys back in December, my truck does not like extreme cold and extreme salt at the same time. All my sensors go haywire. Traction control, ABS, tractor and trailer ABS, hill assist, brake assist, all of it goes haywire when it gets cold and there's salt in and around all the sensors. And it sucks because my dash lights up and I lose all that stuff. But if I go to Love's or go to Prime, they say, well, we can't replicate the problem, because once it gets rinsed off, or once it warms up, or once it dries out, all those things stop happening. So nobody can fix anything. There's nothing to fix. They say, there's nothing wrong. But in the meantime, at the times that I need all that stuff the most, when I'm driving in icy bad conditions, fortunately Friday night I didn't have the. I tried to keep the front cleared off at any time I stopped. Just really kind of conducted warfare against all my sensors to try and keep them in check. But you know, this new technology has a lot of conveniences. I love GeoTab, generally speaking. I mean, there's a couple things I don't like about it, but it's so much better than Qualcomm. But when this new technology fails, it fails in a way that's crippling, damn near crippling. And when it fails, there's nothing that you can do to resolve it. It's not like the old technology, not, paper logs and all that stuff. When something went sideways, you had the ability to make fixes or repairs or things like that. You know what I mean? All this new technology, you can't fix it when it fails you. It doesn't fail you often, but when it does, it can be catastrophic to your operation. For those who've been driving for more than 3 or 4 years for Prime, you remember Qualcomm. This is when Jen and I were a team. Qualcomm had just catastrophic failure. It was just one model of the newer Qualcomms. I started when we still had the keyboards on them, which was terrible. Oh, those things were so old. They had a touch screen, but the touch screen, your finger never lined. The alignment was all wrong, so you'd end up using a keyboard, and this keyboard came down. It was ridiculous. So we got the new models, and there was one series of the new models that were on a lot of trucks. Ours didn't have that. Fortunately, we didn't have to deal with it, but we knew a lot of drivers who did that had just catastrophic failure. Like, they basically just bricked up. They bricked up, and there was no fix for it. There was no reboot. They couldn't reset. They couldn't go back to an older version of software. They were bricked. So not only did you have to switch to paper logs, you then had to be on paper logs to somehow get delivered and route to a terminal to get a completely new Qualcomm installed. And for some guys, it was a week and a half, 2 weeks, like they were out, pushing up against the limit of what the DOT allows for paper logs. So it's just crazy, it's crazy. I don't know. I don't know what, look, I watched a YouTube stream the other day, and I know the guy, and I told him, I was like, hey, this was a little bit offensive, because it had these old school guys on there like, we solve all the problems. They need to ban automatic trucks. First of all, I don't want to drive a manual truck. I like driving a manual car. I'd prefer to drive a manual car. I don't want to drive a manual truck. I have no interest in that. But they're not going to ban automatic. Like, that's the way industry is going. You can't, but I have almost 1 million safe miles in an automatic truck. You can't just make a blanket statement and say automatic trucks are killing the industry and creating all these unsafe drivers and all this. That's not true. It really comes down to the driver. Just like I was talking with winter weather conditions, slow the fuck down. But whether you like it or not, the industry is moving to automatic trucks. It is. The manufacturers, try ordering a manual truck right now. It's like $25,000 extra minimum. to order or buy a manual transmission. We don't like it, but that's the way it's going. We don't like all this technology, all this new technology, and it causes a lot of problems, but that's the way it's going. And there's nothing we can do to stop that. It doesn't matter if you think that me or anyone else should lead a revolution or something like that. Look, this is the way it's going. But somebody needs to step in and stop just like buttering each other up between the carriers and the FMCSA and all that, and say, we've got to have backup protocols for all this stuff. Like you can't just have sensors that are required to be driven in ice and salt and all that when they get ice and salt on them, they start faulting. You can't have ELDs that will incorrectly, in error, throw you into the drive line with no ability to have resolution for that. I'm not one that says, screw this, we got to put a stop to it because we can't stop it. But it's absurd to me that we're not like creating a safety net for the failures of all this new technology. So anyway, I'm going to see if I can figure out what's going on with this guy. Again, I'm in the middle of nowhere and it's Sunday night, so I think I'm in a little bit of a clusterfuck, to be honest with you. But it's all part of the show, man. It's all part of the yard dog. He felt terrible about it. He was a really nice dude. He's like, man, I feel so bad for you. I'm like, hey, I'm just glad it's not my tire. You know what I mean? I'm glad it's a trailer tire. I mean, I don't want Prime to have to pay for it either, but I certainly don't want to pay for it. So, it's just part of the show, you know. It's the luck of the draw. I got a trailer with a flat tire. I wasn't even able to get off the lot with it. And actually, I prefer that. At least I'm still sitting here and I'm somewhere where they're clearly letting me park because I can't leave with the trailer. Much better than being on the side of the road, man. And because of where I was able to navigate out here, it's going to make it optimal for the guy to come change the tire because it's not back there in the mud where it was. I'm right out here on the pavement with that side of the trailer just wide open, plenty of room. So, you know, if you have to have a flat tire on a trailer, I'm in the most optimal position other than it being Sunday night in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere. So, all right, guys, that's it for now. Be safe, make good decisions, always drive, thrive. Talk to y'all soon.